On your left.
But let's jump into this topic here of AI, artificial intelligence. Well, what is it? What do we mean when we say AI? Simply put, it means software machines making simple decisions, and thereby eliminating the need for human beings to make those simple decisions. And simple decision-making, routine decision-making exists everywhere in the economy, not just in manufacturing, but in all kinds of services as well. And what AI will do will displace those human beings now that make simple decisions. Okay, clarification. Artificial intelligence is not simply industrial robots. Whether it's robots or hardware of any form, servers, server farms, whatever, these are just the form factors, you might say, in which artificial intelligence technology gets implemented. It's not the hardware. It's not the machines. That is the technology. The technology is the software coding that makes the simple decisions, makes them more efficiently, and makes them more accurately and faster. And you eliminate human labor in the process of implementing these machines. You know, we've always had the issue of new technology, industrial machines, in other words, previous technologies, displacing labor. But it also spun off other kinds of new jobs as it created new products, right? And by the way, we're talking not just about robots in production or robots in consumer products. Smartphones is not technology. The physical device, that's not technology. Robots are not the technology. I want to emphasize that it's not the hardware, right? It's what's inside of it that is the technology. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, we mean the intelligence to make decisions better, more accurate, faster than human beings can make decisions. And as I said, there are decision making about tasks. What is the task at hand? What to do, when to do it, how to do it. Simple decisions relating to all that throughout the economy. You know? And decisions can be complex. They can be increasingly complex, or they can be very simple. Well, AI will attack the simple decision-making jobs and eliminate human beings that are making the simple decisions. No longer will be necessary. But then it has the capability of becoming, quote, more intelligent. It teaches itself. These software machines teach themselves to handle more and more complex decisions as they absorb more and more data and make more and more decisions. So AI means software that can learn. In other words, that's why they call it machine learning. Think of softwares as the new machines, right? Software meaning just coding. Now, of course, for software to make decisions, Well, what is it using? What are the inputs it uses to make the decisions? That's where we get these massive databases of information that are necessary for artificial intelligence, massive databases. On top of the massive databases, you must have massive computing power in order to process that massive database of information and make sense out of it. So AI requires massive computing and massive databases. But the software has to be written in order to access that data and process that data. The ability to do so is made by the computers. And the databases are obtained, but it's the software coding that takes the database and takes the computing power and makes sense out of it. What are the patterns in order to make the decision? And the decision-making software includes advanced statistical analysis, right? Way beyond, the simple stuff of, what's an average and, what's a deviation, standard deviation, and so forth. I'm talking about really massive stuff. Very advanced statistical analysis, that takes an advanced graduate degree and PhD in statistics and so forth, and programming ability, because it's all got to be customized. You got to customize the statistical software to make the decision, because all decisions are different, right? The decision as to what to buy is different than the decision as to what to clean up or something like that. So the elements of AI, requisites, you might say, are the massive computer power, the massive databases, which we have now, right? And the advanced statistical software that is customized program using these high-level latest programming languages like Python or R and so forth. You put those three things together, now you got a software machine that may sit on a hardware server or maybe in an industrial or a robot or something like that, right? But that's just the shell. The hardware is just the shell in which all this occurs. The technology is the software, the advanced software, including statistical analysis, accessing in milliseconds massive databases of information, selecting from the databases, making judgments about what's the probability of a certain thing going to happen, and using probability statistics in order to make the decision. And it learns over time to make that decision, and it does so faster, more accurate than the human being that previously was doing it. Doesn't make the mistakes. The human being has to take breaks and lunchtime and can't work 24/7, but the machine can, you see. And you don't have to replace it, the human being. You don't have to hire it. You don't have to oversee it. The software machine is much more cost effective. And that's why it's spreading and will continue to spread, AI, so widely and throughout business. It's going to change not only the factory of the future, but the business model of the future. For example, we have AI already at a lower level going on, and even at a more higher level. When you go online and you talk to a chat room of a company with a problem you may have, right? You're not talking to a person. Most of the time you're talking to a bot, you see? And the bot understands your question. And it goes back and it accesses the database that has a similar questions that existed and gives you an answer. Now, sometimes the bot can't handle it, right? If it's too complex. And that's when an individual customer service rep will come on board right? But the simple decisions, the typical decisions, the things that happen most often, the bot can handle. And it does handle. And there are CSRs, customer service reps, in every company, particularly tech companies, that handle complaints and issues, by customers. You can imagine how many of those jobs, which are professional service jobs, that AI will be able to reduce. Maybe not eliminate them altogether. There will be a coworker associated with the bot, but there won't be a customer service rep in the numbers that existed before. So artificial intelligence will eliminate all kinds of similar type jobs. Well, what are some of these jobs? The Harvard Business Review produced this winter a complete magazine on this called The Future of Jobs. A bunch of articles, written by experts, foreseeing what's coming and what's already here in some of the articles, but where things are going and what's coming. What are the jobs that are being eliminated? There's the simple decision-making jobs, because that's in essence what AI is about. It's about decision-making. Who makes the decisions? Human beings that make errors, that have to be trained, that leave, have breaks, get sick, whatever, or machines that don't, you see? And if they don't, their cost is much reduced from using human labor. Well, what are the kinds of occupations that are going to be heavily negatively impacted by artificial intelligence? Well, back in 2017, McKinsey Consultants made an estimate. AI was just sort of beginning then. It had made a prediction that in the 2020s decade, 30% of all the occupations would be either eliminated or their hours of work reduced. 30% of the occupations. We got 162 million people in the labor force in the United States. So 30% of that's a huge number. We're talking about at least 10 million jobs. Well, more than 10 million jobs. We're talking about 50 million jobs, 30% of 160. And of course, there'll be more people in the labor force by the end of the decade. Let's say there's 170, 180. You got 60 million jobs, potentially, that the hours of work will be severely reduced or the jobs eliminated altogether. So what are some of these jobs? Well, as I said, in the Harvard Business Review publication this winter, I don't even think it's on the stands. You have to subscribe to it. Anyway, the top 20 jobs or occupations that will experience decreased demand, in other words, be eliminated or reduced in numbers and even hours of work, are the following. Data entry clerks of all kinds. Simple decision, a lot of data entry, what to put in, what not to put in, right? Administrative and executive secretaries, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll clerks, accountants and auditors. Just think of how many of the kids are going into accounting in the colleges. There won't be jobs for them. Factory workers and assemblers. Customer service reps and workers, like I just discussed. General managers, mechanics and machinery repairers. One of the features about artificial intelligence is that the software machines maintain and repair themselves. They don't need a human to do it. We'll get back to that. Storekeeping clerks, financial analysts, postal service clerks, sales reps, bank tellers, and related clerks, right? electronic and telecom installers and repairers, human resource specialists, training and development specialists, and even construction laborers. All those job classifications, occupations, are going to be whacked by artificial intelligence going forward. Okay, you hear the argument that, oh, well, like technology in the past, the new technologies, AI, and the product lines built upon them will create as many jobs as they destroy. That's been the argument here of a lot of this going on. You can find it even in this Harvard Business Review piece. Oh, it'll create even more jobs, as industrial machinery in the past has done. I'm talking about industrial revolution and machinery, all the way from textile machinery to, machining, machinery, combustion engines, and so forth, right? Created jobs. Well, machinery of the past eliminated jobs, and thus the need for the operator of the machine. But in the case, there may not have been machines, eliminated manual labor. But then it created machines, industrial machines, that needed still the human being to run the machine, you see. Well, what's different with AI is that the jobs it will create doesn't really require a human being to run the machine anymore. It's different. It's intelligence. In other words, it doesn't eliminate manual labor. It eliminates human intelligence, decision-making. Well, it will create other jobs, but they will be highly skilled, technical, mathematical jobs, right? You will need advanced engineering and analyst skills to take these jobs of the future. Well, what jobs are those? What jobs will AI create? Well, going back to the Harvard Business Review piece, it will create more jobs for data scientists, for AI and machine learning specialists, for people who know how to manipulate big data, right? Digital marketing, process automation specialists, business development, digital transformation specialists, right? Software and applications developers and engineers, project managers for those folks, right? Database and network professionals, robotics engineers, management and organization analysts, financial tech engineers, right? Organization development specialists, risk management specialists. Now, are the people who make simple decisions, the data entry clerks and the bookkeepers and payroll clerks and so forth, going to be able to take those kind of jobs? There's going to be a big gap between folks who are losing their jobs and the skills and knowledge they have and the new jobs that AI is going to create. And the educational system in this country is simply not prepared. It is in an archaic state, right? And so too is the higher education system, preparing people in all kinds of disciplines for jobs that don't exist, right? The jobs of the future, the AI-created jobs, will take, significant education and skills and knowledge to perform, and there will be fewer of them as well. They will be writing the code, software code, that tells the AI software machines what to do. Initially, simple decision making. In other words, these human beings in these high-end jobs right, will be writing the software code once, once for the decision making by the AI machines. In other words, writing the code of defining what's the problem, what's the task, what's the decision that needs to be made, defining that. The human being, the software engineer, will write the code for AI machines in its early stages, right? What's the problem? In other words, to decide what the problem is based upon all that data that it'll access, how to use that data. In other words, how to go into these massive databases and pull out the data that's relevant, related to the problem that's been defined, the task that's been defined, right? And then the program code will tell the machine how to use the data, how to get the data, how to use the data in order to perform the task that's been also pre-coded and defined by a human being, right? And then the machine will go and do that. You know, it has the definition of what task it's supposed to do. It will then access the data massively quickly, you know, because of the computing power, and you know, it will tell itself, or it's already pre-coded, how to use that data, access it, what to do with the data, and then how to use the data to make the decision, and to do that much faster. Okay, that's machine learning, right? But AI goes beyond that, you see. Already it's going beyond that. Beyond machine learning is what's called deep learning. Deep learning. How is that different from simple machine learning making simple decisions? Well, in the following way, right? Initially, human beings will program the machine, telling it what problems to solve. So that'll be the same, right? Right? But the machine will make the decisions how to solve the problem. In other words, that won't be pre-programmed. The machine will make the decision and explore and educate itself how to use the software in an even more efficient way than initially was programmed. It will learn. It will learn how to do this itself. It is learning. That's above simple programming, you see. Machine learning in the simple source will take a certain amount of human labor to write the programs and so forth, right? Once that's done, you know, it's done. The machine does whatever it does in decision-making at that point. And you will need, you know, a certain number of jobs to pre-program and so forth. But with deep learning, you need fewer jobs. You don't need someone to come in, a human being, and say, oh, we wanted to make more decisions. Well, then we got to rewrite the code, right? We got to add more lines to that code. No, the machine is smart enough now to do that itself, right? To make the decision itself. And it will use what's called natural language processing. In other words, it will be able to read English language information, you know? In other words, here's an example, right? Magazines and writing for magazines, right? Right now, the magazine company hires a human being to write an article. Well, with AI machines, the machine will know what kind of articles people want to read. And believe it or not, the machine will then write the article. Yes, it will be able to look at massively quickly the articles that have gotten the biggest, and magazine articles and magazines got the biggest circulation, that people bought and read the most, and it will then be able to determine what the topic is, and it will be able to then, using natural language processing, determine how that was written by, thousands and tens of thousands of articles, and it will be able to write the article itself. So in the future, a lot of the articles you read will be written by machines and say pretty much what people want to hear that they've already been reading. The same thing goes for in credit card applications, right? That will be written by machines, right? Or the processing of credit, to determine who gets a card, who gets a loan, and so forth. That decision making will be done by machines. And you can think about, basic template language here for contracts, right? Legal contracts of various kinds. Instead of paraprofessionals, word processing the hell out of all that. A lot of that is rote and routine. The machines will write all that. There's all kinds of processing now done by human beings in written language that the deep learning machine using natural language processing will be able to do. Deep learning means the machine will also learn how to change its own code and how to correct its own errors that it might make over time. Well, it predicted something wrong. It had the wrong kind of access, the wrong kind of data. Well, it'll get more efficient. It won't access that wrong kind of data. It will rewrite its own code. That's a capability. It will self-maintain itself. You won't need human beings to come in and clean up the code. It will clean up the code itself. That's a big development, right? Okay, that's called deep learning, self-maintenance. And of course, we have the three stages of identifying the problem to be solved, what data to use, and how to use it. But it will make those decisions of what problem, what data, how to, more independently. It won't require a human being to come in and to prime or upgrade the code in order to make those decisions. It'll do it on its own. It'll rewrite its own. It will self-maintain itself. That's different from industrial machinery of the past. That's different. Industrial machinery of the past, what did it essentially do? It automated work, manual labor that human beings did with their hands. It just made it faster, was able to do it faster than human beings using their hands. But it was still working with improving manual labor. It wasn't about decision making. In an industrial metal lathe in a machine shop, can do the metal grinding and the polishing and so forth for the machine part much faster and more accurate once the settings are set than a human being can. But what it's doing is automating human labor, right? Physical labor. AI is automating human mental intelligence and decision making. That's what's different. And to replace that with new kinds of mental machines, new kinds of artificial intelligence machines, it requires less labor, but the labor has to be far more skilled, as I said, right? This ideology that, it's going to create more jobs than it destroys is based upon the past experience with industrial machines that simply automated manual labor, right? That's the assumption. Those who say, it's going to create more, AI is going to create more and destroys, are just simply looking back and saying, well, before, in the past, technology has created new jobs as it destroyed the old, right? Yeah, it will create new jobs, but highly, highly skilled jobs that most people who won't be able to do. especially the people who are going to be most eliminated by AI, simple decision-making jobs requiring simple skills, simple education, simple knowledge, rote, routine kind of activity. Those people in the tens of millions will not be able to make the transition. And the education system is not creating enough of the people for the new jobs. I've seen statistics that say the U.S. businesses today need 10,000 AI engineers right now. 10,000. Nowhere near those, right? Okay, so the jobs mismatch, as we say in economics, the mismatch between the jobs that are going to be created and the jobs that are going to be lost is a gap, the likes of which we've never seen before. Going to be a big problem. Okay, now I haven't talked about the highest stage yet of artificial intelligence. You know, I talked about simple machine learning. You know, what problem, what data, how to use the data. I've talked about deep learning and natural language processing, you know, where the machine does more of defining and selecting the problem. And of course, all can alter its decision as to what data to access and how to use the data it accesses. It's not pre-programmed, pre-coded, you know, what data and what to use. Simple decision, machine learning it might be, but with deep learning, it's not. The AI device, software engine, does that itself. In other words, it becomes more autonomous from the human programmer. It becomes its own programmer. All right, but then there is an even higher stage of artificial intelligence. Not here yet, but certainly coming. Because these machines will get smarter and smarter, more and more intelligent, be able to handle more and more complex problems, requiring more and more complex decision making. As it becomes more intelligent. Well, how does it become more intelligent? Well, simply by doing the process over and over and over, many, I'm talking about millions of times maybe, it becomes more accurate, more efficient, faster. Okay, that's what learning is about, right? But the third stage that's coming is what's called artificial general information. You know, the simplest stage is the simple machine learning. Then we've got deep learning. Now we've got artificial general information, or AGI. There you will need virtually no human inputs. Why? Because the software machine will decide what problems it will even address. In other words, the software won't tell it what problems to focus on. It will decide itself what problems to focus on. It will self-identify the problems, right? It will write its own code, right, associated with the problems it identifies it wants to address, right? And then, of course, it will select itself what databases it will use, and it will determine itself how to use the data. Think about that a minute, right? As we move up the scale here from machine learning, deep learning to AGI, right? We have fewer and fewer human inputs, less and less predefined software code in which human beings have played a role. Until we get to AGI, where human beings don't interfere at all in the coding and in the upgrading. It's all done by the machine, the intelligent software machine. And again, it doesn't matter what the form factor is. It doesn't matter if this is an industrial robot, if this is some massive server farm or whatever the hell it is. That's just the appearance of the technology. You know, your iPhone the physical thing you carry around, that's not technology. That's just a shell in which the technology exists. And the technology, may be just chips, maybe the smallest form of hardware, but it's really the software that decides what to use the chip. The chip is just a little computer, you see. That's all that is. But it's defined to do certain tasks all the time, same certain tasks. Well, when you get to AGI, what are the tasks? What is the problem? What is the decision? Well, the machine will make all that determination itself. The human hand and the human mind won't even be involved in it. Now, in business, there's a lot. What is business? It's really human beings making decisions, about what to produce, where to get the stuff to produce, how to produce it, what to do with it once you produced it. And it's all decision making. A lot of it is simple. And that's what AI is going to start replacing, and is already doing so, already replacing a lot of the simple decision making. And in the future, it will move up the scale and do even more decision making. Now, there will be jobs that obviously, AI will not be able to do. And these are the job growth areas of the future. Taking care of human beings, right? Care. Child care, elderly care, other forms of care. That's where the job growth will occur. Entertainment and so forth, human beings. But even there, it will be increasingly replaced. I mean, you can imagine pop music here, right? Think about it. Well, it runs in phases, right? Certain kinds of sounds and certain kinds of music is popular with the public, and we keep getting entertainers, singers, whatever, copying the other popular thing that arose, group or whatever. Well, artificial intelligence will be say, okay, this is what people are buying or listening to. We can access, orchestral instruments, and we see what lyrics they like that they're buying, and we'll just reproduce the song ourselves. Companies won't, maybe they'll select some nice-looking person to lip sync it or something, right? So, even entertainment will be impacted. Look what's happening with games, more and more human-like, right? At some point, you won't need actors either, human actors. A lot of it will be copy stuff, copy this, copy songs, copywriting, copy paintings, copy everything. But the machine will be able to make that, and that will eliminate a lot of human beings in the process who do that now. So just in almost unimaginable areas like, entertainment and the arts, it will have an impact there too. And what drives it all is capitalist business wanting to make more profits, you see. And historically, capitalism has made more profits by getting rid of workers, reducing labor, and using machines because they don't go on strike, they don't take bathroom breaks, right? They don't get sick. You can run them 24/7, right? And it's just easier to do business with machines, and it's cheaper. Cheaper means more profits, right? Capitalism is about drive for profits, and profit making has always included the important element, reducing costs, and labor has been the largest cost element in most goods and services production. So get rid of them. Well, services is all labor, virtually, isn't that right? That's why you're going to see AI displacing a lot of service jobs here, not just in the factory or in construction. Okay. just something to think about here. Artificial intelligence, it's really here. I'm be replacing an article I'm publishing or getting published here on this topic, on the future of jobs and work, AI. And again, one of my main thoughts and conclusions is this ideology that's being spun, and you can even read it in Harvard Business Review. The writers on where AI is going, they know it's going to whack jobs big time, and so a lot of the articles always have an element in them of, oh, but it's going to create jobs too, right? Don't be so worried. There will be new jobs created as old jobs are destroyed, but unlike in the past, it will require a level of knowledge and skills and intellect and degrees and so forth, unlike ever before. The manual labor who got displaced, say he worked in 100 years ago, worked, in agriculture, right? And here comes the tractor, and the tractor eliminates the need for a lot of hand agricultural work, so that laborer in agriculture moved to the city, and in the city, went to work, got trained as an assembly person on an auto line, automobile production line, or in the machine shop or something, right? But it was still manual labor. They were exchanging manual labor for manual labor. And yeah, when he went off the farm, he was using hand tools, right? And when he got into the city, he was using welding tools, right? Or other tools, on the shop floor. It was one for one, in a sense. The industrial machinery eliminated jobs, but industrial machinery added jobs in the city, in production, and so forth. But as I said before, that relationship of manual labor for manual labor created jobs does not exist with AI, because what it's talking about is substituting manual labor, decision making, right, for intelligent decision making or intelligent work of the future. And the education and social system is just not up to finding jobs for all these people whose simple decisions will be eliminated, and finding new jobs. There will be new jobs, but there won't be as many of them, and these people won't be qualified for them. Some kind of guaranteed income arrangement is going to have to occur for that. And we see with these fiscal measures here, Build Back Better and everything, an attempt to, in effect, create some kind of guaranteed income for people who have been thrown out of work, right? Look, the child care benefit, $300 or what is it, $300 or $600 per child care for families with children, is a kind of early guaranteed income, isn't it? The government is giving you income to raise kids. And if that's made permanent, it's a kind of a partial income, right? And we can see this happening in other areas of the government providing more and more of the cost of health care, covering more and more of that with Medicaid and so forth. So we're creeping towards that, but too slow. The gap in the job creation is going to open wider and wider. By 2030, a lot of these jobs are going to be simple decision-making jobs, and services and manufacturing are going to be eliminated, gone. AI is going to take over that task, and then AI will upgrade itself into more and more areas of deep learning, right? And then eventually AGI, where the machines kind of do everything. And that's scary. That's scary when you have artificial intelligence at such a level that it can decide what problems it wants. Not society, not human beings, but it decides what is the problem. And then it doesn't need programming by human beings where to go to get the information. It will find out where to go to get the information. And then it will decide how to write the software code, to make the decisions. It'll be mostly the machines themselves. I mean, what is this? Is this Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator time? Is this Skynet coming? I don't want to be too far out with all that. You can really get into big conspiracy, crazy shit. But I don't want to go there, except, where are we now? We are at deep learning. There is deep learning going on. Startups and businesses who are implementing software deep learning, artificial intelligence. And there is natural language processing going on right now, early stages. Right? Simple to see, the machine learning is already here in quite a few places. And if you look at the industry, in terms of the spending, and gives you an idea how fast and how soon this is coming, in the previous 10 years, only $3 billion in the U.S. was spent on startups, AI startups, This year, $80 billion will be spent in 1 year. $80 billion on new startups. Half of them are in the U.S., and another fourth at least are in China. So it's a two-country race. You see, artificial intelligence, AI, is a two-country race, China and the U.S. And the U.S. is trying to slow China down, because AI has great military significance. Just think about it, making decisions in milliseconds based on data access. You can envision missiles, right? Missiles with the capability of avoiding counter missiles or counter efforts to destroy the incoming missile or divert it to somewhere else, right? If it can make decisions, it can move, it can change, right? Its trajectory, you can change its target, whatever. Great military significance here for our smart bombs will become intelligent bombs, right? In other words, it will decide where to go on its own, right? Bombs and missiles and targeting of various kinds, right? You combine that with hypersonic speed of these things. Now hypersonic missiles, underwater torpedoes that go the speed of sound. Can you imagine that, right? These are the military technologies of the future, and it's a race to who can leapfrog whom here, who can get there first by 2030 or beyond, right? And China and the U.S. are in this big race. The rest of the world's left behind. It's a two-dog race. But great military implications. That's why the Trump administration tried so desperately to slow China's AI development down, right? And that's what the trade war I've talked about on the show was really about. It was really about how to get China to slow down its AI and its next generation technological development. Next gen technologies, meaning not just AI, but 5G broadband, 6G broadband, cybersecurity, and so forth. Right? There's a race going on now in technology. But how big is the market going to be by 2030 or, in a couple of years? Well, other estimates, World Economic Forum, whatever, $15 trillion will be spent on developing and implementing, AI over I'm not sure if that's, the next by 2025 or by 2030, but $15 trillion worldwide. That's not a market. that is growing slowly, you see. Because the great motivation here is cost savings and faster and greater output of production. Okay. I will be posting, my next article on my blog, jackrasmus.com, for those to read, in which I go in more detail here about artificial intelligence and the new future jobs.